Shannon Singleton was sworn in as a Multnomah County Commissioner 1 year ago, representing District 2, which is North and Northeast Portland. A clinically trained social worker, Singleton has been an interim director of the Joint Office of Homeless Services, as well as a housing policy advisor and director of equity and racial justice in Governor Kate Brown's administration. Commissioner Singleton, welcome back to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
First of all, what's your perspective on the shootings that happened this past Thursday?
So my perspective on the shootings is that it's another example of the chaos and fear that is being sown in our community by this federal administration and their enforcement and ICE. In North Portland in particular, we have been dealing with this for months, where our schools have been on lockdown because of ICE activity, and now things have escalated at this point to a shooting that has injured 2 people from this community.
Can we get more into the effect that these actions are having on your constituents? What kind of things are happening in response to what ICE and, in this case, Border Patrol are doing?
Yeah, so in North and Northeast Portland in particular, we've seen people who were not taking kids to school because of some of the activity in front of schools, and so there's been a lot of activity of people stepping up to make safe corridors and at least be watching and taking video if there is ICE activity to help people feel like they have community support. For Multnomah County, we've seen people maybe not access their healthcare services, not come into food pantries, and so it's been really important for us to look at our sanctuary policies, look at our programs, and make sure that we're finding ways that people can access those basic human needs that they have.
As a matter of fact, Multnomah County recently strengthened its sanctuary policies, and you actually committed money for that, about $250,000 to support families.
Yes.
What will that money be used for, and why was it important to strengthen your sanctuary policy?
It was important to strengthen the policy because the first resolution was written in 2016, and it was very impactful, but didn't address some of the things that we're seeing today. And so, for example, I wanted to make sure that we were directing our county departments to use technology if we needed to do remote meetings and intakes so that people could access and still feel safe. We needed to put dollars into this because legal defense has been a huge need. Again, people who maybe aren't going to work or aren't showing up at food pantries, we wanted to make sure that we were getting food into the community and that people could access that. Excuse me, and additionally, because sometimes folks are not going to work, we saw more and more people in need of rental assistance or utility assistance.
When you look at just the overall climate that we have, especially in this state, you know, being a sanctuary state, we've gotten the attention of the Trump administration a number of times over the past few months. What do you think this means in terms of, especially people like you in elected positions, taking positions against the administration?
You know, I think we're going to be a target regardless of what we do. And so for me, it's been really important to stand up and show the community that I have their back, that our values are still true, that we care about the human beings who live here, and that the county wants to make sure, as the largest social service provider in Oregon, that we are serving people across our entire community. And again, that we have their backs. People are scared, and they need to know that their elected officials are going to stand up for them and try to do everything we can to ensure their safety.
What about people who say you're protecting illegal aliens?
I say that we don't have any illegal aliens in Oregon. We have human beings who are mothers, brothers, sisters, cousins. They're people who have lived here for a long time. We have a huge wealth of the community that are immigrants who have come here, who are contributing community members, and that some may not have legal status, but that we don't talk about human beings like that here.
Jessica Vega Peterson is the county chair now, and she has said she's not going to run again. Your name has been surfacing as a possible candidate to run for county chair, but you do have the option to run for your commission seat again. Yes. Where are you on that decision now?
I am getting close to making a decision on that because I'm on the same election cycle. I'm the only commissioner who has to choose which seat to run for. So I've really been focusing on where can I be the most impactful? You know, you probably remember during my campaign, a lot of the conversation was that county commissioners don't have power. And in my first year, I think I've shown that that's not true. I've been able to move a lot of budget investments forward during my first budget process. I found over $30 million of supportive housing services funds that needed to be really reallocated to core services. I've been able to move Walnut Park redevelopment, which has been stuck for years, actually get it out the door and award an agreement with a private public partnership to do redevelopment there. So there's been a number of things I've been able to do that show that commissioners can have power. And so the big question for me is, where can I be most effective for my community? Is that as a commissioner or as chair? And of course, I need to talk with my family and make sure that this will work for how we run our household.
So, any idea when you'll make your decision?
I am really leaning towards spending some time this weekend to really figure it out and come to a decision in the next week or so.
Okay, well, I guess I'll be calling you next week.
Absolutely.
Multnomah County has established hundreds of overnight shelter beds, hundreds of more overnight shelter beds, but the data shows that there are more homeless in the county than ever before. So where is the county falling short here? What's happening out there that we can't get ahead of this?
I think there's a couple of things happening. We're seeing a lot of new people come and fall into homelessness. So it's important to know we have a set of folks who are what we call chronically homeless. So they have long-term homelessness coupled with some sort of disabling condition, often multiple disabling conditions. And we have people who are falling into homelessness every month. With our new by name list, we were able to see that about 1,000 people a month become homeless, even though we're housing about 600 a month. And so that inflow and outflow you'll hear people talk about the math doesn't match up yet. And so we have to focus on affordability of housing and make sure that we can keep people inside, as well as be able to move people out of our shelters and back into permanent housing.
I want to talk before we leave here about the county's deflection center for low-level drug offenders. Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez says the program lacks accountability and it really hasn't been effective in getting people into treatment. Here's what he told us.
It showed that a lot of people were walking up, touching the door and leaving. And then the people that were engaging, we weren't seeing what I consider to be meaningful engagement and treatment, really meaningful success, people actually taking the steps necessary to get to sobriety.
Well, Vasquez says he will now pursue charges against people who drop out of the program. Do you agree with that strategy?
I think that I put out a reform proposal around deflection. I do think that we have not set people up to actually be successful in accessing treatment. It's important for people to know that even if somebody walked up to me right now and said, I want treatment, I can't get them a bed that same day. And so we have to, I think, put people in a position where they at least have access to a shelter bed and they can be stable so that they can get into treatment.
Multnomah County Commissioner Shannon Singleton, thank you for coming back to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you so much.
A ballooning price tag for replacing the interstate bridge comes to light in a report left out of the public eye for months. A call for accountability in this week's Give Me a Minute.